You're listening to Thunderquack Podcast Network.
Hello, we are back live on the Thunderquack Podcast Network for the Thunderquack Podcast Quarantine Zone. I am, of course, your host this evening, Michael Cohen, and with me I've got special guest Tim Geraci, Geraci Park himself. Hey, Tim.
Hey, what's up, Mike? Sorry, you're cutting out a little bit there. So if there was a delay in me responding, that was why. But happy to be here. It should be a fun one.
So let's get right into it because we started a little bit late. So let's jump right in. The other day was the 30th anniversary of a pretty special movie, I think. The
Yes.
first live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Tim, you're a little bit older than me, right? Just by I think a couple years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you probably would have remembered it a little bit better because I was 5. I definitely remember it. I remember seeing it in the theater, but you've probably got a clearer memory of that moment than I do. Can you kind of recount that for us? What was it like seeing that movie in the theater for the very first time?
Yeah, I remember that day pretty well, actually. And even before the movie came out, I just remember being super excited. I remember just one day, like it was like a Saturday afternoon or something. My dad was reading the paper and he goes, "Hey, Tim, they're making a live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie." And just right when I heard that, like that just sounded so strange to me because this all I was used to was the cartoon series, but I was excited about it. And I remember not seeing it right when it first opened. So, because I remember I had some friends telling me about it. Oh, it was so good. It's so cool. And this made me more excited to see it. So I don't remember how long I actually waited till I saw it from when it came out, but it seemed like forever. I remember after hearing how so many of my friends were saying how great it was.
Yeah.
But I saw it on a Saturday afternoon. I remember we had a garage sale that day and we were planning to go to the movies afterwards. And I just couldn't wait for that garage sale to be over to go see the movie. So when it was over, my dad took me, my brother, and a neighbor of ours who was a friend of ours growing up who lived on our street. And we just went to the theater. And I even remember where I sat. It was probably like the 5th row down, corner seat of the theater. And I just fell in love with it right when it started. And part of it was because it was so different than anything I've seen before with the Ninja Turtles, obviously from the 1987 cartoon series. But even though it was so different, I was loving it. Just seeing them in live action for the first time was just so cool. And I just always remember that excited feeling I have watching it for the first time of seeing the Turtles brought to life like never before. So I loved it when I first saw it. I just had a buzz about me the whole day after coming out of the theater that Saturday afternoon, and then just me and my brothers and the friend who came with us going back home playing Ninja Turtles right after. So it was just a great time, and I'll always remember that day fondly.
Yeah, for sure. You know what's so funny is that the thing that I probably remember the most about the live action Ninja Turtles movie is not the movie itself, but the you remember many years ago, obviously we're talking about 30 years ago, sticker books. Do you remember like what were they called? Fleer? Was it Fleer that was the brand? It was something like that. It had, I can see the little logos, like a little yellow logo with like a guy on a horse with like he's like a knight or something with the banner. He's got like a flag banner thing that he's got.
Okay.
Like a joust.
Hey, you're bringing all this stuff back to me.
Yeah. And it was super simple. You would get the book. You'd always see them at the grocery store in the checkout, right? They'd be right there in the checkout, and there'd be the book, which you had to get pretty early on because at a certain point they'd be harder to find. And then you get little packets of their playing cards, like trading card size, like same as like a baseball card, And in the package is, five or six, I can't remember how many, stickers, which are screenshots basically from the movie, and a piece of gum that is just gonna cut the insides of your mouth up.
Yeah. Break your teeth.
Yeah, crack into that thing, and it's gonna take a while before that's chewable chewing gum. And by the time it is, the flavor's totally gone. But who cares about the gum? Toss the gum, throw it on the ground, watch it shatter into 1,000 pieces. It doesn't matter, because that's not what you're after. What you're after are the stickers. And you get the stickers, and inside the book would be sometimes there'd be like a black and white version of the image, or sometimes it would just be numbered. Like I remember with the Ghostbusters one that I had, I think that they were just numbered. But with the Ninja Turtles one, I think it was like black and white, and then maybe I might be thinking about the actual trading cards that are like black and white on the back and then color on the front. But there's a place for every one of the stickers, but you don't know what stickers you're going to get in these packs, right? So you open it up and you're like, okay, got that one, need it, sort of thing. And then you could theoretically trade with your friends, but I don't really know anybody who did that. We would just put the stickers in the sticker book, and then whatever doubles we had would just go on other stuff. Go on a binder.
Yeah,
go on
exactly.
On a lunch kit or the side of the dresser, and then my mom would yell at me for sticking stickers on the dresser. And it's like, well, you're the one who left me unattended with stickers. So it's kind of on you. But yeah, I can like see them with like the green border and just like the horrible resolution screen caps from the movie. And like the Raph in the bathtub is one that just jumps to mind immediately. But man, like I said, I was 5. How old were you at the time?
I was 7.
You were 7, yeah. So what a difference between 5 and 7, by the way. Like you may as well. It's the difference between 7 and 30. But I don't remember a time without Ninja Turtles, right? That's just always been. Ninja Turtles have just always existed, as far as I'm concerned. And obviously, being born in 1985, the cartoons starting around then, Amanda's texting me about something. I'll get back to her. This is what happens when you're doing a live show. Yeah, like there's just no world for me that doesn't have the Ninja Turtles and the Ghostbusters in it. Those are two things that just are kind of indelibly written into my memory. And I can't say that I was excited for it when it came out, because to me it was just like, yeah, it's a Ninja Turtles movie. Like, they made the Ninja Turtles movie. I can remember the second one coming out, and then especially the third one, and being really excited for the third one. And you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say it right now. The third Ninja Turtles movie, good movie. Nothing wrong with that movie. It's a little bit.
It's been
cheesy.
A while since I've seen that one. I should probably revisit it.
It's certainly not historically accurate. Like, let's be super clear. Don't use it as a teaching tool, but yeah, it's but I still love it. I still love traveling back in time to ancient Japan and feudal Japan, I should say. But yeah, go ahead.
I think my biggest gripes about the third movie that I remember, just the downgrade of the costumes from the first one, is just how because they didn't use Jim Henson anymore, and you could just tell that they just weren't up to par from what we got in the first two movies. They just stand out so much to me as far as looking so much cheaper. But I should revisit that one at some point. I know it has a bad reputation, but as a diehard Ninja Turtles fans, I think there's some easily can find some stuff to love in that third movie.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, like the turtles in the samurai outfits alone, like that's like when they're in like the guard
Mm-hmm.
the guard outfits. It's like that's worth it all on its own. But I can understand now as an adult why some people look at that movie and think of it in a weird way, because the second movie, because the first movie is so perfect. It is really like a near perfect comic book adaptation of the
Mm-hmm.
first issue, really, of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. In fact, I have it right here next to me. I'm just gonna grab it. I'm just gonna pull it up. And this is one of the funny things, is that a lot of people don't realize, the Shredder fights the Turtles in the first issue, and they defeat him in the first issue. He gets knocked off the top of the building into the dumpster. Um,
And
but
he gets impaled a lot before he gets knocked off that roof of
he
the building
does.
too. So they
He
made it
gets
pretty clear he was dead.
yeah. He gets defeated. Yeah, there's a lot of blood, but it's black and white, so they could kind of get away with it. And also, originally Ninja Turtles wasn't meant for kids. When Eastman and Laird created
Nope.
the series, it was actually, it wasn't. They weren't serious. It was a satire. It was actually lampooning Frank Miller's famous run on Daredevil. And that's why the Foot Ninja are called the Foot Ninja. That's a direct reference to the Hand, who are the ninja that Daredevil fights in the comics. So like it's supposed to be a joke, right? It's supposed to take Frank Miller's very serious, gritty noir style and make it completely absurd by having your main characters be turtles, giant anthropomorphic turtles. And then what's more ridiculous than that is fighting a ninja who's covered in blades and calling him the Shredder, right? And so
And yet it
like,
all works so.
yeah, it's so funny because when you read that first issue, it's like it is very like sort of self-serious, but it's self-serious in a tongue-in-cheek way. And yet by the time they get to making the movie in the 90s, the Turtles are now a phenomenon, right, from the animated stuff and the toys. So they take the source material very seriously, and the source material does get more as it goes. We get into, and then it gets more ridiculous after that. But we get into to the Farhampton storyline. Is it Farhampton?
Northampton, I believe.
Northampton. It's Northampton. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the comic books, and then they bring that into the movie, even though it's very disconnected from that in the comics. It's not part of the same story. But they kind of bring it in and work it into the middle, because that was kind of the moment in the comics where it was like, oh, actually, like they are going to tell some serious stories with these characters. But I mean, then the Turtles get completely ridiculous. But when the Triceratons show up and they got to fight.
That would traum all that.
Yeah, it gets kind of crazy. But yeah, I mean, like it's always so funny to me when adult nerds get mad about the latest incarnation of the Ninja Turtles not being what they wanted it to be. Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a really good example of that, because it's very different from previous series. But they forget that this was never supposed to be serious, right? It was never supposed to be taken seriously. It's always supposed to be a little bit tongue-in-cheek, a little bit ridiculous. And there's nothing wrong with sort of twisting the knobs on the Turtles a little bit. I sound quiet, hey? Let me try turning up my volume then. Does that sound better? Let me know if that sounds better, Jason.
Sound louder.
Do I? Okay. Okay. Yeah. But like the turtles are like inherently ridiculous. But you know, like there are some stories that take them a little bit more seriously and others that don't. But even the IDW stuff, which I think people consider to be one of the best takes, I know that you and I certainly feel that way.
Yeah, definitely.
Even with that, it doesn't shy away from its roots, and in fact, it introduces a whole other element to it that none of the other incarnations. I guess that's a bit of a pun. I
was just gonna say
none of the other incarnations ever involve, which is that the Hamato Yoshi and his sons, his actual sons, are reincarnated spirits from feudal Japan. And
which on paper, if you just read that as like a description or a synopsis for a story or like an upcoming Turtles movie, the reaction would be furious from diehard fans about that.
Yeah, absolutely. No different than saying that they're alien turtles, right? Like it's such a fresh take on it, and yet but it is kind of ridiculous. Like you said, on paper, you'd be like, I'm sorry, what? They're reincarnated spirits? But then within the comic, it works so well because it adds this whole other depth and this extra texture to the storytelling that that not only does that mean that they are actual brothers, not just four turtles from a pet store, but like they're actual brothers. It explains why they know ninjutsu, why they're able to do that, where that comes from in a satisfactory way. And it also allows it to be a contemporary story while maintaining this very anachronistic element, which is ninja, right? Which is always a challenge. That's always going to be a challenge. In the 80s, I think it was a little bit easier to pull off because you had like the Karate Kid next to what you were doing, and it was like, okay, so there's still kind of this feeling around martial arts and that sort of thing. But nowadays, in the 2000s, it's like, okay, well, we know there's no ninja running around on rooftops. Like why would Hamato Yoshi know ninjutsu? That doesn't make any sense. Like, how are you going to explain that to me? But they do it this way, and it works really, really well. But it is inherently a very sci-fi fantasy way of doing that. So when you get Rise of the TMNT, and it goes full comedy with it, and it's much less about the action or the certainly the drama. There's not really any drama in Rise.
There's actually a little more than I expected. Near the end of season 1, when it dealt with Splinter and it revealed more about his past.
That's
I was actually
true.
surprised at some of the stuff it did with that.
That's true. It definitely does. It gets into but again, there's another reinterpretation of the character. Why is he a master martial artist? And then they explain it later on in the season, in the first season, and it's actually a mystery to the turtles until they discover it, which I thought was a really cool way to do that. Kara and I watched Rise when it went on Netflix, and I actually love it. I think it's great. I think it's a great interpretation of the turtles. If you don't like it, I totally understand, because it's a very specific taste. It's kind of Ninja Turtles crossed with Adventure Time to a certain degree. It's kind of got that like absurd Nickelodeon Cartoon Network sort of vibe to it. But yeah, you're right. It does go to some cool places. It does have some actual stakes at a certain point. But
I
mean,
remember
John Cena is the bad guy in that. So how can you not?
I remember they had those. They released like 4 episodes during the Comic-Con in 2018 as like a preview. And I wasn't a huge fan of it. It was like, I go, it's only a few episodes, and they're short too. Each episode is like 10 minutes. and I'm still gonna check it out when it comes on. And when they actually started airing episodes consistently, it started clicking for me where I'm knowing what the show's what it's about, and it's legitimately funny. They have some great gags in there
Yeah.
too, and the action's really cool. And I think the best part about the show is they created some really cool new villains in their designs for the turtles to go up against, and the different mutations that these new characters that they created for it. So, yeah, I ended up really enjoying it over the course of the first season. I haven't seen the second season at all because like DirecTV screwed up something with their Nickelodeon channels where it's not airing on. I'm not getting one of the channels where it's airing. It used to be on regular Nickelodeon, but then I think it switched. So I have to try to track it down. But you're saying it's on Netflix for where you're at?
Yeah, we've got it on Netflix up here. I don't know if you guys have it on Netflix.
Yeah, I'll have to check
down
to
there.
see if it's on there.
Yeah, the first season is on Netflix. But yeah, I don't know. So we got into a whole thing about the Ninja Turtles on Twitter the other day, talking about our favorite turtles. So yours is Leonardo.
Yes.
And I'd like you to explain yourself.
I know. I always hear that. How can Leonardo be everyone's favorite turtle? He's the boring one. But I don't know. I just find myself relating to him more because he doesn't have that specific thing quality that Raph is, the tough, grumpy one. Michelangelo's the party dude. Donatello's the smart one. And Leonardo is the leader. That is his thing. But yet, I like how he's kind of the balance of all that stuff. He does have moments where he shows where he has brains and he can show his angry side too, and have some fun. Maybe not much as a party goer like Michelangelo, but I think he's a good balance of all those qualities. But yet, what I really like about him is that, and this goes into particular to the 2012 series, which is my favorite, and I think the characterization of Leo is just how he became the leader of the group. And the journey and the arc that he went on to how he really took on that role, where at first, in that first episode, Splinter is letting them go out on their first night on patrol, and he doesn't really pick a leader. Leonardo goes, "Can I be the leader?" And he just goes, "Sure." But it later gets revealed that Splinter really wanted Leonardo anyway, just kind of wanted him to take that opportunity for himself. But just the way he shows his frustration with the other turtles not listening to him, kind of undermining his leadership, and just dealing with all that. And then also that was the course of the season when he has to go through and becoming that leader by the time the series is over. I think it's just a great arc for the character for him to go on. And plus he shows his nerdy side in that series too. I just loved how he's obsessed with that sci-fi TV show that's supposed to be a ripoff on the original Star Trek series. He's just such a fanboy over it. I love that. And he wears my favorite color bandana and has the best weapons. So he just throw all those aspects into it. That's why he's always been my favorite turtle. Will be in different incarnations. Obviously, he varies on some of his personality traits, but that consistency is always there with the character. Well, Rise definitely has the biggest change for him, without a doubt. First off, him not being the leader, but for the most part, every single incarnation has that aspect of Leo that I really do like about the character. So, yeah, first I was just drawn to him because he was the turtle who wore my favorite color bandana, which was blue. Yeah. But over the course of, becoming a diehard turtle fan and reading and not all the comics, but a good portion of them at the time. And then just watching everything that came out, I just really come to appreciate him as a character in his own right, instead of just being a little kid liking the color blue. So
that's so funny because when I was a kid, Donatello was my favorite. And that combined with Darkwing Duck are the reasons why purple is my favorite color. Which I don't know if you guys know how much I like Darkwing Duck. It's kind of a secret. It's certainly not what we named the podcast network after. But yeah, I so as a kid it was always Donatello for me. And I think that had to do with like the tech part of it, but then also the bow staff. Like it was, I don't know why, I just always thought bow staff was a cool weapon. As much as like, look, they all have cool weapons. Everybody has cool weapons in it. But I think actually one of the reasons why Donatello became my favorite it's so hard to pinpoint because, like I said, like I just grew up with turtles. Like it was just always part of my life. And you would think that from a young age, Michelangelo would be my favorite because my name is Mike. But I don't know. I think that might have also like kind of turned me off of it because people expected him to be my favorite. But I don't know.
Gotcha.
I was a very talkative, very very precocious kid, as you can probably imagine. And so I think that I like there was a lot in common with Donatello, but it was really the Donatello from the movies, voiced by Corey Feldman, that particularly
At least in
in
the first and the third one.
yeah, I like that. That's that characterization. I don't know why, but I think I just like kind of connected with it. But honestly, it is at this point in time in my life, it's a two-way tie between Michelangelo and Donatello. But I do tend to lean more into the Mikey stuff now, as an adult because because the 2K12 Michelangelo was perfection. Greg Sipes just crushes it as Michelangelo, and the way that they write him, and that that response that I made on the thread, because it was
Yes.
you started it, and then I came in and made a comment, I think, and then Marty came in and was talking, and I started basically antagonizing him, and he was like, because he said that his favorite was Raph, which I think is a lame answer, and he, yeah, you know, Mike Templeton just commented, I honestly prefer Adam Carl from TMNT2 over Corey Feldman. I don't disagree with you. I would say that Donnie in Secret of the Ooze is actually probably the best one. And probably I think for my money the best incarnation of Donatello. But that's also one of the movies or one of the stories where he really, really gets to shine, where that character gets a lot of the sort of like he does the lion's share of the work. Everybody else kind of fights, right? But like where like I think the first TMNT is kind of Leo and Raph's movie, and then TMNT 2 is Donatello's, and then 3 is definitely Michelangelo's movie. But man, what was I saying before? We were going back and forth, and Marty did the here's my top my ranking, and he ranked all 4 turtles, and so I was like, here's my turtle ranking list, and I listed Ninja Turtles, and then I started just listing other types of turtles.
I remember you had the Sonic movie ahead.
Yeah, Franklin and Filbert were in there. Franklin, obviously the turtle from the children's books, and then Filbert is a character from Rocko's Modern Life. And then yeah, I did put in like the turtle that turtle from the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, just so that I could mention Sonic movie in the thread about Ninja Turtles, and then an actual turtle, and then I think it was Raph, all the way at the bottom for me. But honestly, I was just trolling.
But the GIF was perfect though.
But the GIF is like that was, and that's what I was talking about Michelangelo in the 2K12 series. The GIF, like when I started searching through, because I put into the GIF search Michelangelo, and was just kind of scrolling through, and I think the easy one to go with is that one of the like the movie mask where it's like it's just kind of like vibrating almost.
Yeah,
like the eyes
like
are really wide. Yeah. And like that's the easy answer. That's the hack response for a GIF. But I kept scrolling and scrolling, and then I saw that of Michelangelo with like the aviator sunglasses, like the like cop sunglasses, right? And the flames just burning in them, and he's just like totally stoic looking. And I was like, this is the perfect punctuation to this tweet. As I just give Marty a hard time. And I tweeted it, and then the responses were like, that's pretty good. And I was like, I am super proud of this tweet. Like it's a pretty perfect tweet, I think. But yeah, I think.
And yet after all that, though,
yeah,
Raph ended up winning the Twitter poll.
Did he?
That I put out. Yeah.
But here's my thing with that, and this is the reason why I have the response to Raphael that I do. I think it's easy. I think it's easy to like Raph the most. Honestly, I think like you've picked the hardest path for sure. And then I think Donnie and Mike are in the middle there, and kind of interchangeable. A lot of nerdy kids end up liking Donatello for obvious reasons. And then Michelangelo's the fun one, right? But Raph is easy because Raph is the tough guy. He's cool but rude. It says it right there in the theme song. And those are things that as kids, I think that we aspire to. We want to be able to get away with behaving the way that Raphael does, right? And he's the hothead, and he's he kind of goes off half cocked, and he's always the first to fight, stuff like that. Which and then he's like the dark brooding one, where he goes up on the roof to do his katas and then gets attacked by the foot soldiers. It's all like. I used the analogy in that conversation on Twitter of Batman, and it's the same reason why when people say that Batman's their favorite superhero, I just kind of roll my eyes, because I think like Batman's super easy. It's just like
full disclaimer though, that's always is my response for superheroes.
No, I totally know who I'm talking to on this. But here's the thing, like I know that when you talk about it, you are a hardcore Batman fan. Like you go deep with it, and that's different. I'm not talking about people who like they study Batman. Like I love Batman. I think Batman's a great character when done right, but I think that there are a lot of really lazy, a lot of really sloppy interpretations of Batman.
Sure.
And a lot of them come from people who don't want to do that extra work. Or don't really have a full understanding of that character. And in the same way, Raz some great storylines. Obviously, that the original 1990 film, his story is central to it, and it's fantastic. And then again, when we pick that back up in TMNT from 2003, no, 2007, 2007.
Yeah.
2003 was the other Turtles series, right?
Yeah.
The 4Kids series. But yeah, the 2007 movie TMNT picks up that thread from the first movie. 'Cause for those who don't know, TMNT is a continuation of 1, 2, and 3. And the continuity includes all three of those films. And then TMNT. And the reason why we know that is that in the 2007 movie, there's a scene in Splinter's room where it kind of pans over a bunch of stuff, and we see the scepter. We see the time scepter in the background, which is obviously just a bit of an Easter egg for hardcore fans. But there are also some other things in the story where they kind of establish that although the characters are somewhat reinterpreted, in the same way that 1 and 2 and 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3, like April's different in every single one of those movies. So it's like it maintains the continuity as much as anything maintains the continuity in that series of films. But I think for me the main thing that connects the 1991 with the 2007 one is the relationship between Leo and Raph. And so I love the 2007 movie because it's one of the only stories that, and the IDW one's kind of getting there now, but it ages up the turtles a little bit. They're not quite. I think that the popular perception of them is that they're kind of in like that 15, 16 sort of range. But then in the TMNT movie, it really feels like Leo is like 20 in that movie. Like he's actually not a teenager anymore. And you kind of like the IDW comic makes you think of it this way, because if you look at it, you've got Leo is the oldest, Raph is the second oldest, Donatello comes after that, and then Mikey is the youngest. And if you look at them that way, which I think the really good versions of the Turtles definitely do that. You see where they fall sort of in the pecking order, and why Raph has the axe to grind with Leo, and why Donatello kind of just stays out of it and just kind of protects Michelangelo down at the bottom, and then Mikey is still just a kid. So if you kind of look at it that way, and it's like Leo is like 20, Raph is like 18 or 19, Donatello is like 17, and then Michelangelo is probably like 15 years old in that movie, right? And you kind of get that vibe from them. And it really works that way. But that relationship between those two characters, and obviously the rooftop fight, is one of the best moments in Turtles history, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
that fight. I don't have that movie on Blu-ray, and I don't think that it's on any of the streaming platforms that I have.
I know it was on Netflix for the longest time. I'm not sure if it still is though, but
yeah, well, and of
here.
course Netflix is different here and there.
Yeah,
no, the only Turtles stuff that's on Netflix up here is Rise and The Next Mutation, which just had to come up at some point, right? Let me check Amazon Prime while we're talking, but it's been so long since I've watched it because I don't have it on Blu-ray. And it's really kind of a tragedy, but I can't bring myself to buy. I have the live action movies on Blu-ray. Maybe I do have the animated one on Blu-ray. Is it part of that set?
Because I'm just gonna say that big. I think in 2009 they released a box set. It was like the pizza box set on Blu-ray.
So that's the one that movies. I don't have. That like hurts. Right. And so I can't, but I do have a box set that has at least the 3 live action movies. Let me see. TMNT movie search results. Is it here? No, it's not. But, it looks like all the seasons of the 2K12 series are on Amazon Prime. Season 2 of.
Oh, nice.
Wow. Season 2 is the whole season. No, only episode 3 is available right now. That's confusing. It's part of Stack, which is like in Canada. It's not only there's a bunch of episodes that are available from season 2, but that's weird. Anyways, the Stack is this thing that you can get up with your Amazon Prime thing here. It's like the channels that you guys can add on. But
gotcha.
But yeah, it's got some Nickelodeon stuff, and it looks like it's got Rise as it airs, because it looks like I've got like the last 5 or 6 episodes, and then a few other ones. But yeah, man, I need to watch that TMNT movie again. I should double check if the one that I've
it looks great
on
in
my
Blu-ray.
shelf
I actually got 2 copies though, because I got the first one time it came out in 2007. Then when it was bundled in with that pizza box set, so I've watched it a couple of times. And that fight scene in HD, it looks fantastic.
Yeah. Here's a question for you, and this will be the thing that we wrap up on. How do you feel about the Michael Bay films? Because I have opinions. The Blu-ray set that I have only has the 3 live action movies, so I don't have TMNT on Blu-ray. Sorry, go ahead.
That sucks. Okay. I actually enjoy them because they're not the best interpretation of the Turtles. I'll go ahead and say that, but there's some stuff in there I really do legitimately like. The Turtles, the way they captured their personalities and their different traits that they have, I thought they did a really good job to capture that brotherly bond that they have and all the things you come to expect when seeing Leonardo, Donatello, Raphael, and Michelangelo. So they captured the essence of the turtle well. And yeah, they changed certain aspects of the origin, which some worked and some didn't, but they're just fun movies that I enjoy watching. And the action in it, I think, is really good, especially that Splinter and Shredder fight in the first movie. I really enjoyed that.
Do you?
I've always wanted to see that done in live action. They've done it in the animated series, which is great. And to see it done in live action was really cool. I just wish it was Hamato Yoshi versus Oroko Saki, where they had that history and that rivalry that they had. That was just the one thing missing, that core element to those characters that just would have elevated that fight sequence even more. So that's kind of the biggest thing I feel that those movies are missing, just the core essence of the Turtles. And with Splinter and Shredder, that's the core of the conflict that they have with Shredder. But yeah, I enjoy it for what they are. There's certain elements about it that, don't quite work as well in certain other adaptations that we've gotten from them. But the CG on the Turtles, I will say, everyone complains about how they got to get away from the CG and go back to the costumes, which I would not object to seeing again, because those costumes in the first movie are fantastic. But to say that the CG wasn't good on the Turtles in those movies, I just think is not the case, because you can say whether or not you like the designs of the Turtles, but the actual CG work, I feel, looks really good, where it feels like you're seeing live action Turtles without telling they're just computer generated characters. So I will give it props for that, for making the Turtles look believable and real using the CG and motion capture technology that they did for them. So they're not perfect by any means. They'll never go down as my favorite adaptation of the Turtles, but I still enjoy watching them.
Yeah, it's funny because as time goes on, I have less and less of a problem with them. And here's the thing: the first one I think is a very problematic film. I think the initial whitewashing of the character of Shredder was an issue. It's an issue that
obviously tell they changed the last minute.
Yeah, they fixed it right before they released the movie, but not good enough in my opinion, because it's, like you said, it's very noticeable. It's very, very noticeable that it was a last second like reshoot type of thing to go like, actually it's a Japanese guy inside the armor. It's not I can't remember that actor's name, but you guys all know who I'm talking about.
It's his name for the movie, Eric Sachs.
Yeah, there you go. So like there are some lazy screenwriting things in that first movie that really bother me. There is the whitewashing of the Shredder and Splinter that bothers me, because Splinter also is not. I don't understand why you wouldn't get an Asian. William Fichtner. Thank you, Mike. I don't know why you wouldn't get an Asian or Asian American actor to play Splinter in any incarnation of the Ninja Turtles at this point. I kind of feel like you have to. And like, don't get me wrong, Tony Shalhoub is great. I love Tony Shalhoub in other stuff. I don't like him as Splinter. I don't like that interpretation of Splinter at all. I don't like that they learned ninjutsu from a book.
Yeah, that's the biggest.
It just doesn't work for me. Like it's just like when I talk about Ghostbusters and we get into the 2016 movie conversation, and it's about like, there are rules to the Ghostbusters, right? You don't destroy the ghosts. You're catching the ghosts and containing them. And it's really important for the kind of core essence of it, because it's not like it's not about fighting the ghosts, right? It's about having some power over the supernatural. It's about being able, like I said, capture and contain. So as bad as a ghost can be, as scary as it can be, like science and technology is going to triumph over that, right? And just like we can treat it like any other you know pest that we need to deal with. There's a really cool element to that when you get rid of that in the 2016 movie, and they're just walking around with laser guns that shoot ghosts. Sure, it looks cool, and those sequences are somewhat fun, but there's a magic that's missing in that movie that it just doesn't work for me. And it's kind of the same with the Turtles, when like that you have to have that element of it that grounds it into reality, because so much of the rest of it is ridiculous. The Ghostbusters are exterminators. We understand that as a concept, as a grounded real world concept. So when they capture the ghost in a trap and then they put it into the containment unit, we get it. It's like catching a rat in a trap and then releasing it somewhere else, right? Like you're getting rid of the problem, but you're not killing it, right? And that's all like super relatable, that they're exterminators. With the Turtles, there are very few touch points in the story that are relatable, because you're talking about anthropomorphic turtles, a giant talking rat, and one of the touch points that actually grounds that storytelling is the ninja element, oddly enough, because that's one of those things where it's like, well, I've seen a kung fu movie. I've seen a movie about ninjas. I know what ninjas are, right? So then when you throw the giant talking turtles and the giant talking rat on top of that, it's like, okay, but as long as they follow the ninja tropes, we're clear, because it's like, that's the weird thing. The ninja part's not the weird thing. Mm-hmm. But the second that you make the ninja part hard to follow, like hard to believe, it's the foundation that the House of Cards is built on, and it just crumbles. It just can't stand. The second movie, we get away from it. It doesn't matter. We don't have to go into like, oh, they learn ninjutsu from a book. So you can just forget that. The second movie, I think, like very smartly brings in Bebop and Rocksteady, and they're the focus. And like their origin story is key to that world building. And we don't care about how the turtles learn ninjutsu. It doesn't matter. They also like sort of decluttered their designs a bit, and I do think that they leaned into the characterizations even more in the 2016 one in Out of the Shadows, and most importantly, they put a heart into the story. The Halloween parade scene establishes such a great aspect of Michelangelo's character in those films, where like he just wants to be normal, he just wants to be accepted. So when they find the mutagen and Donatello starts working on the it's not a retro mutagen, because it's not going to turn them back into regular turtles, but the mutagen that's going to actually turn them into humans, it creates this great inner conflict amongst the four brothers, where you've got Leo and Donatello, who are like, Donnie's like, this is dangerous. We don't know if this will last forever. We shouldn't mess with this science. I can figure it out, but I don't know if it's safe. Right. And Leo is like, no, we are what we are, and we shouldn't fight that. We need to, if we're not the Ninja Turtles, who's going to stop the Shredder? Who's going to stop Bebop and Rocksteady? Who's going to stop Krang? All that stuff. Right. But then you've got Raph, who's like, I just want to be, I just don't want to be hated anymore, right? Like, I don't want people to be afraid of us. And then Michelangelo, who's like, I just want to be accepted. I just want to be able to go up there and where all of this cool stuff is, and be able to just like be there. And it goes through the whole movie, and then we get to the end, and it's why the movie is titled Out of the Shadows. By the end of it, the Ninja Turtles are heroes. And everybody now knows that they're heroes, and it's not Like I love what they did with that story, to the point that the stuff that I hated from the first movie just melts away. It totally just melts away 5 minutes into the movie when they start that sequence of like jumping down the building or whatever. It's just gone. Like, and I'm just a 5-year-old kid, just like excited about a Ninja Turtle story.
Just seeing what you love about the turtles.
So I really find that first movie is it's lazy and it's problematic. Like, there's a lot of actual like problematic racist whitewashing going on in that movie, whether they covered it up at the end or not. It's still there. It's totally still there. But the second movie, I really feel like the studio got out of the way of it, and because I think that the first movie really suffered from the studio being way too involved. And it's really funny because that's Paramount, right? I'm pretty sure those two movies are Paramount.
Yeah, they are.
And then Sonic the Hedgehog, also Paramount. And if you look at what happened, I think they learned their lesson on the Turtles movies. And when the outcry happened with Sonic last summer, and I think that Jeff Fowler gets a lot of credit for this, because he was the one who immediately like said, we got to fix this. They do not like it. But it was Paramount that wanted Sonic to look realistic. They were the ones who pushed that. They were probably also the ones that pushed it on the 2014 movie with the Turtles, and you can kind of see in the 2016 one they backed off a little bit, and it allowed the filmmakers to really tell a great Ninja Turtles story. And to me, like, that the 2016 movie is as good as any like animated Turtles story from any of the cartoons. It's right there. Like, them fighting Krang and the Technodrome flying around them, and he's in the mech suit, and it's just it's perfect Ninja Turtles. It's perfect Ninja Turtles. Bebop and Rocksteady in a tank. Like, if that's not right out of one of the brawler video games, then I don't know what is, right?
Yep.
Like, it's so perfect. They really nail that stuff, and you can tell like the ship had sailed on the turtle designs. It was what it was, right?
Yeah.
but you could tell that they kind of wanted a bit of a do-over with Bebop and Rocksteady. So like, those character designs are as true to the original designs as you can get. And they execute them perfectly, and the voices are great, the performances are great. Yeah, I really love that 2016 movie, and I need to watch it again. But the great thing about having a kid is that you have an excuse to go back and do these things. We just watched Sonic the Hedgehog tonight, actually, because it's on digital now. So I bought it yesterday, or I actually bought it Monday night. But we watched it tonight finally. And we saw it in the theater. Cara and I saw it in the theater, but Crystal hadn't seen it yet. And Cassie, even though she's only 8 months old, almost 8 months old,
It's never too early to start.
It's never too early to start. Stuff, exactly. Yeah. But Cara is obsessed with Sonic the Hedgehog right now because of that movie. We watched it again tonight, and it kind of all came back. And she was after the movie finished, she was running up and down the halls in the house going, "I'm Sonic, I'm Sonic." And she had her purse on, which has like a sort of a thin braided rope, and then it's a rainbow actually, but like the purse itself on this gold rope. But she put it on and she went, this is my ring bag, this is my ring my ring holder. And she was running around and pretending that she had rings, and I was like, this is pretty good stuff. This is what it's about.
That's awesome.
But yeah, she loves the Ninja Turtles. She really likes Rise of the TMNT. But I've yet to watch these live action ones with her, and maybe we'll give it a go. maybe we'll give it a go. I'm sure that they're on one of these streaming platforms that I've got access to. They must be. I think they were on Netflix at some point, but now they're not anymore. But
they were on Amazon for the longest time too,
really?
So they might still be on there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. But yeah, I think that's it, man. I think we've talked about Ninja Turtles so much tonight, and that makes me really happy. Because obviously Ninja Turtles.
We don't get to talk about them enough. Yes.
Yeah. Well, we don't have a podcast specifically about them, right? But yeah, this is one of the good things about the whole quarantine COVID-19 thing is that I'm taking this opportunity to connect with all of my friends on these live streams and talk about stuff, and just start about Turtles on Twitter the other day just made me think, like, that's what we should talk about tonight, because we never get to talk about Ninja Turtles. Yeah, so thank you, Tim, for joining me tonight. If you guys like Tim, you should go listen to any of his other podcasts. Star Wars: The Saga Continues, which is part of Thunderquack, and I'll even say go listen to what is it? It's the Batman podcast, Batman Fans Podcast.
The Bat Fans Podcast.
Bat Fans Podcast.
We're going to be recording a new episode this weekend, and I have a funny feeling we're going to be talking some more Turtles on there. So.
Ooh, nice.
Just throwing it out.
Hey, so I've watched the first Batman TMNT animated movie. Are they making another one? Because they've done. Okay, they haven't announced it yet. They've done
yet,
3 volumes of the comic.
Another
right?
one's coming because it was such a big hit, and I just would like to think they're going to do the other comic, because there's 3 volumes of the comic. So
yeah,
if they do adaptations of the other 2, I mean, sign me up, because I love the comics and absolutely love the movie.
I actually bought the movie because I wanted to watch it, and I was like, I'll just buy it on Google Play. So I did and watched it, and it's great, and I love it. But then I started reading a comic, and is the first volume of the comic basically it's the same thing, right? It's the same story. Okay.
There's some minor tweaks in there, but the overall story premise of it's the same. Yeah.
I got to get to that volume 3 when they all put on their Robin costumes and whatnot.
Those first few issues of that story was a trip. Not gonna lie. It was a lot of cool stuff.
I'm so excited for them to wrap up although, man, comics aren't being distributed right now, but I'm excited for them to wrap up the Power Rangers TMNT crossover that they're doing right now, the Boom IDW one. I don't know if it counts in the IDW timeline. The Ghostbusters Turtles crossovers did, but the Batman TMNT crossover isn't. It's not part of the IDW story. It actually takes place in its own universe, right? Like, it's kind of, the Turtles just live in New York, but there's also Gotham, and they go to Gotham at some point, right? That's
actually one of the big differences from the movie and the comic, because in the comic they are from another universe, and they get transported into the DC universe, into Gotham. So that was one big change.
Okay. So I need to finish the comic then.
There's actually some cool story elements that goes into that, which I don't know if you're going to read it. I won't spoil it, but it does make for some good emotional moments between Batman and some of the Turtles.
Cool. I did really like in the animated movie, though, that they just created a shared universe where Batman and the TMNT coexist, where it's like, and they're kind of like I thought the Batman was a myth, and it's like, what the heck are you guys? It's just like these 2 urban legends coming up against each other. But Mike Templeton just commented that it's not part of the IDW. It is in Elseworlds, the TMNT MMPR crossover. But I don't care if it's out of the continuity. Like, in fact, let's just create a continuity that is just TMNT MMPR. Let's just keep going with that more, because the images from the final issue where the Turtles use the power coins to morph, man, that's about as cool as it gets for a 90s kid.
I mean, I haven't read those issues yet. I'm gonna for now just wait till the last one comes out, so I can just read it all straight through in one sitting. But I have seen some of the art that's come out for it, and it does look super cool. So, I may just start reading on those.
Anyways, I was wrapping it up. It's so hard to stop talking about the Ninja Turtles. Thank you, Tim, for coming on. Thanks for asking me. Thank you to Jason and Mike for tuning in. Thank you, Jason, for being one of our Patreon producers. We appreciate you. That's it for the live stream tonight. I will be back on Friday night with Carl Leclerc from the Wampa's Lair. Look, he bailed on me on an episode of Faster, More Intense to talk about The Mandalorian. But he's not. We will not let him bail this time. So I want you guys to hold Carl accountable. And make sure that he comes on Friday for the live stream. It's going to be late for him though, because he is 3 hours ahead. But maybe we'll start a little bit earlier. I don't know. I got to talk that over with Crystal first. But we'll be back Friday night, sometime between 7:30 and 8:30 Pacific Standard Time, and streaming, of course, on YouTube. But then on podcast services the next day. So thank you, Tim, again, for joining me. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And I will catch you guys on the next Quarantine Zone.
See you next time, everybody.